Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. It's great to see so many people out at our vigil. My name is Irene Siegel. I am a scholar, an Arabic studies scholar, an educator, and activist with No Separate Justice and Jewish Voice for Peace, and I'm emceeing on the vigil this evening.
Louder, please.
Okay, I'll try. No Separate Justice, tonight's vigil is dedicated to the Holy Land Five, which are 5 Palestine activists, Mohammed al-Muzayan, Shukri Abu Bakr, Ghassan Elashi, Mufid Abdul Qadir, and Abdurrahman Odeh. And so we're going to be talking about their case as well as the criminalization of Palestine activism in the U.S. in general. No Separate Justice is a domestic human rights campaign post 9/11, focusing on the domestic human rights and civil rights abuses that have been that have been committed in the name of the war on terror, and particularly focusing and targeting the Muslim community, as well as other immigrant communities and in the U.S. We meet on the first Monday of each month, and you're all invited to continue to come to these vigils. We focus on a different case or series of cases or issue each month, and so this month, as I said, the focus is on the criminalization of Palestine activism. And we're especially focusing on this very egregious case of the Holy Land Five. And we'll be hearing about this increasingly intensive targeting. We're going to start with Susie Day, who is a writer and who has been a part of our vigils since the very beginning, part of No Separate Justice. And she's going to start off by giving us some background on the Holy Land Five case. So, give the floor to Susie.
This is for anybody who hasn't read the email, because that's what I'm reading right now. The Holy Land Foundation was a charity founded in 1989 that provided aid to people in Palestine and across the world. Without defining what its claim even meant, the prosecution alleged that the charity commissions in Palestine that the HLS, or Holy Land Five, used to distribute aid through were controlled by Hamas. This enabled the U.S. government to argue the men were guilty of providing material support to a terrorist group, even though the same charity commissions were also used by the UN and the Red Cross to distribute aid. 5 former employees of the HL5 are currently serving between 15 and 65 years in prison. The prosecution and incarceration of the Holy Land Five underlines 3 pressing issues in how terrorism suspects are tried and convicted in post-9/11 America. 1, the criminalization of Muslims giving aid as well as political organizing around the issue of Palestine. The HL5 were prosecuted even though the same charity committees were used by high-profile agencies, including the UN and USAID, to get aid into Palestine. 2, due process issues. At the HL5 retrial, the first trial resulted in a hung jury, the prosecution used an anonymous expert testimony believed to be a first in U.S. judicial history, as well as classified evidence which the defendants were not allowed to review. Also, the government can make an allegation like the one organization controlling another with no specific definition and without even specifying the requirements to prove its claim. 3, conditions of confinement. Members of the HL5 are now held in communication management units, which the Center for Constitutional Rights has called an experiment in social isolation, as prisoners are denied physical contact with family members and phone calls are severely limited. I think that's...
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us this background. And now we're going to hear from journalist Joe Catron, who did extensive coverage of the trial of the Holy Land Five. Joe, I'll give the floor over to Joe to tell us more about the case and your experience of covering the case.
Sure. Well, I'd like to start by mentioning something that may have been mentioned before. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. Today is the 98th anniversary. Sorry, today is the 98th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, which was the document in 1917 with which the United Kingdom gave away Palestine, a country that was not its to give. And this had a couple of major historical effects at the time. It triggered an escalation in the colonization of Palestine, which had been ongoing for decades, but not nearly as intensely as it was afterwards. And it also marked really the beginning of Western countries' open complicity with the Zionist project, which has a lot to do with the case we're discussing here today. I've been asked to speak, as you said, particularly about media as it pertains to the Holy Land Foundation case, both mainstream coverage of it and my own experience covering it in Gaza. The mainstream coverage, what can you say? After the conviction, the media largely ignored it, despite the pressing issues that were being raised, issues that really should be of tremendous concern to all of us who might ever see the inside of a courtroom ourselves. And when it did cover it, it tended to ignore or repeat uncritically prosecution talking points, things like support and control, without ever examining what these actually mean. And of course, this is a case where they mean very little. In terms of covering it from the Gaza Strip, both talking through beneficiaries of the Holy Land Foundation there and dealing, in some cases extensively, with family members who live in Gaza, there are a couple of things. Of course, the Holy Land Foundation met many pressing needs there, ranging from funding of hospitals to university scholarships, and many of these have not been met since it was closed. That's part of the story. The other part that isn't as obvious is the stark divide between charitable institutions that are willing to submit to the full control of Israel and its Western allies, and those that are not. This is something that can be seen very clearly in the case of Al-Wafa Hospital, where I spent a number of days last summer with Ghassan Elashi, who is the brother of Ghassan Elashi, the imprisoned chairman of the Holy Land Foundation. Eventually, everyone was forced out, and Israel bombed it, destroyed it completely, leveled it to the ground. It's now rubble. And for many of the foreigners who had been involved, those of us from more repressive Western countries like this one, it raised the concern of what we could do to help with reconstruction. Obviously, we were being taxed so that our government could send military aid to bomb a hospital, but would it be legal for us to participate in fundraising to rebuild it? And there's really no clear answer that anyone can give. Meanwhile, international institutions like the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, continue to bring in millions of dollars, but no one can really tell you what it's for. A few days ago, I saw in the news that the first family has finally moved back into a rebuilt house that was destroyed in the onslaught last summer. One family so far. But as they say, Gaza will not kneel, and Palestine will not kneel. And finally, I've saved the best part for last, I have the honor of reading a message from Shukri Abu Bakr, one of the imprisoned Holy Land Five, and this was sent by his daughter, Nida, who asked that we read it here tonight. I just need to figure out where the beginning is. Here we go. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for coming together to advocate for, defend, and celebrate freedom and human dignity. I was only 20 years old when I arrived in the United States on January 2nd, 1980, but my dreams were precious and old. I dreamt of liberty and the pursuit of happiness for me for the family I was going to start, and for the world at large. I envisioned a future that was bright, and a country that had promised to give me every opportunity to be the man I aspired to be. Sure enough, I was able to pursue my education and build myself from the ground up, enabling myself to fulfill my God-given task, coming to the aid of the helpless, comforting the tormented, sheltering the displaced, feeding the starved, and inspiring hope in the hearts of countless men, women, and children around the globe. However, it was not a crime I had committed that landed me in a dismal cell and deprived me of my basic human liberties. Rather, it was my belief in the American ideals. It was my service to humanity. It was the gross injustice that had moved the government to snatch me and my brothers from the face of society. Now, was it anything we've done in the way of mischief? Nor was it anything we've done in a way of mischief that had deprived all of us, the HLF Humanitarian Five, of our rights to live free and die free. Unfortunately, only in America are men punished for saving precious, innocent, and devastated lives. This prolonged incarceration has taken a heavy toll on us, as well as on our families. While in prison, El-Mazain lost his older sister and both of his parents. Brother Abdul Qadir lost a brother and both of his parents. Brother Odeh lost his father, and I lost a nephew, my daughter, my father, an uncle, and 3 close friends. Having said that, today I'm not trying to solicit anyone's sympathy, but I am certainly asking for understanding. Please understand that injustice is a wildfire that consumes everything that stands in its way unprotected. If we don't take part in putting it off, it might as well burn all of us alive. We, the HLF Humanitarian Five, were not the only victims of injustice. Our children, our wives, our parents, and our friends turn and twist in agony as well. We have left behind the communities that relied on our contributions in the areas of leadership, mentoring, and expertise. The injustice that has been committed against us was an injustice vast and vindictive. Thus, no one should stand indifferent to our loss and suffering. It has been 7 years of psychological torment, yet, alhamdulillah, we're still standing on our feet fighting with vigor. Our faith in Allah is firm, our belief in the ultimate coming of justice is unwavering, and our trust in you as our devout friends and supporters grows stronger as our incarceration grows older. Therefore, I ask you today to stay the course with us. I ask you to fund MLFA's efforts in fighting for us. Please give them support, because it takes a lot of giving before we can enjoy the receiving. Advocate for us, educate the public about our case, and demand justice with every atom of strength you have. Demand our release with every bit of conscience you have, and pray for us and for our families. Thank you for being there for us. Thank you for giving us the glimpse of hope that lightens up our horizon for a better day yet to come. Shukri Abu Bakr, number 32589-177. Thank you.
And the letter mentioned the MLFA, the
Muslim Legal Fund of America.
So a good fund to keep in mind to support the Holy Land Five. I'd like to actually call in Alexis to do a little call and response before we hear for our next speaker. Alexis Adala.
Hi, I'm Alexis from Adala in New York, the New York campaign for the boycott of Israel. And rather than speaking, I'm just going to lead a little call and response. So maybe up in MCC here, maybe they can hear us. So if you can sing after me, and please sing better than me too. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
All people must be free.
All people must be free.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
From the belly of the beast.
From the belly of the beast.
No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
From the bottom to the top.
From the bottom to the top.
Racism's got to stop.
Racism's got to stop.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
They prosecute without a
They
crime.
prosecute without a crime.
No separate justice, now's the
No
time.
separate justice, now's the time.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Preemptive prosecution, shame.
Preemptive prosecution, shame.
We say not in our name.
We say not in our name.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
There is no crime in charity.
There is no crime in charity.
The Holy Land 5 must be free.
The Holy Land 5 must be free.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
From Marion to MCC.
From Marion to MCC.
Stand up against solitary.
Stand up against solitary.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Let's build a bridge, tear down a wall.
Let's build a bridge, tear down a wall.
Till there's justice for all.
Till there's justice for all.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Oppressing ones, oppressing all.
Oppressing ones, oppressing all.
No separate justice is our call.
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 Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Omar Shakir. Shakir or Shakir?
Shakir.
Shakir. Who is a research fellow at the Center for Constitutional Rights, focusing on unlawful detention at Guantanamo and U.S. targeted killing practices and Palestinian rights issues. And he's going to be speaking about a very explosive joint report that just came out last month, or in September, that was published by Palestine Legal and CCR, documenting the widespread suppression of Palestinian human rights advocacy in the U.S. So let's welcome Omar.
Thank you everybody for coming. I'll try and project so everybody can hear. It's really incredible to see such an awesome turnout for this event. I can think of no cause more important to be spending your Monday evening on than showing our solidarity with the Holy Land 5. When we heard about the case in the beginning of this vigil, I heard gasps around the crowd. And I just want to take a minute for everybody to really think about what happened to this family. We have 5 individuals who were a part of an organization that was doing nothing more than raising money and raising awareness about a really serious human rights issue, which is, the ongoing subjugation of the Palestinian people for many decades. And in response, for those First Amendment constitutionally protected activities, you have men, fathers, you have husbands, you have sons, you have uncles who have been serving between 15 and 65 years in prison. So just take a minute, to think about that. Think about the families, the sons and daughters of each of these men that wake up every morning missing that person in their life as a result of their activities, raising awareness about an important international issue that really should concern all of us, not just as, for many of us Americans, but as human beings. But what I want to talk about is the context for what's happening around the movement for Palestinian rights in the United States and the way in which that advocacy continues to be silenced, censored, and even in some cases criminalized, but how the movement continues to grow in spite of the odds. As was mentioned in the introduction, we released a report at CCR along with Palestine Legal on September 30th. What we've basically done over the past several years is we've spoken with hundreds of student activists, professors, university administrators, journalists, NGOs, and we continued to hear stories of folks that, lost their jobs, or who had events canceled, or who faced sanction from their university, or who simply were, branded as anti-Semites or supporters of terrorism for doing nothing more than organizing a demonstration, a walkout, an awareness event, a boycott or divestment campaign. In fact, in 18 months between January 2014 and June 2015, we documented 292 different instances of suppression of Palestine advocacy. And I'll talk a little bit more about exactly what that means. And just to put that in context, that's only the number of instances that were reported to us and for which we were able to actually document the facts and what took place. 85% of those incidents targeted students and scholars at over 65 campuses across the United States. So just to think about the scale of this issue. So I wanted to spend a minute talking about some of obviously the Holy Land 5, example is in many cases the most dramatic, but there are many examples that affect probably a lot of you in this audience, looking around and seeing many of you I know from organizing. So I thought I'd take a minute and talk about the different tactics used by Israel advocacy groups to pressure universities, government actors, and other institutions to suppress criticism of Israel or advocacy for Palestine. The first of those tactics is falsely accusing people of anti-Semitism or support for terrorism. Nearly half the instances that we document involve somebody being falsely accused of anti-Semitism. And of course, as we all know, anti-Semitism is a very pernicious thing. We've seen in history what happens, when you have genuine instances of people targeting those for their ethnicity, for their religion. But what's happening here is you have people doing nothing more than criticizing Israeli policy that are labeled as anti-Semites. They are tarnished their name in the media. In many cases, they're pressured through different sources for their employers or others to take action. It can have a very serious effect on the families and individuals who are targeted. In addition, in many cases, you have universities or governments that take positions formally against advocacy for Palestinian rights. So, for example, you have the chancellor of the University of California system that likened a walkout of an event by an Israeli soldier to hanging of nooses and drawing of swastikas. I mean, that kind of official denunciation of Palestine advocacy. But you have in many cases much more subtle forms of denunciation, labeling these events as uncivil or divisive as a way of undermining the activist goals. In addition, besides official denunciation, you have in many cases students that are subjected to administrative sanctions that, for example, take place in walkouts and then have their student group suspended from activities for the entire year, or even individual students themselves who are taken out of the university for doing nothing more than wanting to bring and shed light to an important international issue. In addition, when it relates to academic freedom, you have professors such as Professor Steven Salaita, who many in this room are familiar with, who was fired from a tenured faculty position at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, for tweets that were critical of the Israeli government's assault on Gaza last summer. An individual who lost the most prized possession in academia, a tenured faculty job, for tweeting about the killing of over 2,000 Palestinians and 500 children. In other instances, you have the use of legal tools. Lawsuits, for example, that were brought against a small food co-op in Olympia, Washington, who decided not to shelve 8 Israeli goods. And as a result, faced a lawsuit, and 5 years after it was filed, continued to have to deal with this sort of legal harassment. You have legislation being passed both federally and at the state level that equates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism, or that takes punitive action against organizations that call for boycott and divestment. You have, in addition, of course, criminal investigations and prosecutions. People who face police interrogations, or in some cases, even criminal prosecutions solely for their criticism of Israeli policy. All these tactics taken in the aggregate, as you can imagine, significantly chill those that think about speaking out, because they have to really take stock of whether or not, you know, they're willing to put their lives, their families, as the Holy Land 5 did, on the line to engage in these activities. But I want to end with the same kind of optimism that Shukri showed in his letter, because I think that's incredible, just hearing those words. For how, in spite of his circumstance, he's continuing to urge us all to advocate and to continue this movement. And I want to tell the story in just 30 seconds or a minute of what's happened in Professor Salaita's case that I mentioned earlier over the last year. In the course of the last year, you've seen the administration of the University of Illinois, 16 departments vote no confidence in the administration of that university that fired Professor Salaita. You've seen 5,000 academics, including Cornell West and Angela Davis, vow to boycott the university until it reinstates Professor Salaita. You've seen major academic organizations like the American Association for University Professors censure the university. You've seen we've won every single legal decision in the case, including the judge rejecting the university's cynical attempt to dismiss the lawsuit. And a year later, the chancellor and the provost that fired Professor Salaita resigned hours after one of our legal victories in court. So the takeaway from all of this that I want to end with is, yes, we're here to show our solidarity with the Holy Land 5 and to really remember them, speak out, donate to their legal defense fund, but remember that the movement for Palestinian rights, the movement for civil rights here in the United States continues to grow in spite of repression. And let's take that message, let's spread it, and let's continue fighting. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nardine Kiswani. Nardine? Nardine Kiswani is an organizer with Students for Justice in Palestine, NYC, so she's going to give us a sense of a little bit more specifics about the climate that Omar's been talking about.
Hi everybody. So before I start, I just want to give a little bit about myself. I've been organizing at SJP for about maybe over 3 years now. We started the one at the College of Staten Island. I'm a CUNY BA student, so I'm also taking classes at John Jay College and Hunter College, where we also organize SJP there. So we've really faced repression from around the entire spectrum. You know, we've seen it from every campus and from every aspect that it could get. We've also got, SJPs collaborate together, and we go to Brooklyn College, and we've all seen the article that just came out recently that had people, converts, going into MSA, Muslim Student Association spaces to entrap people. This is the environment that we deal with. We're on our campus demanding human rights, demanding freedom for our people, and we have to fear that. We have to fear that because of our political beliefs, because of who we are, because I wear the scarf on my head, because I believe that Palestine should be free, because so many of us, for many different reasons, they're trying to silence us. They don't want our voices out there because they know that once people know what's going on, they'll know the truth and they'll join on our side. And they're fighting us on every single aspect to keep that hidden. Now, specifically within the CUNY system, because it's a public university, they can't hide information from us. So we file Freedom of Information Acts, and we see what this campus can do to us. Did you know that CUNY has weapons that the NYPD isn't even allowed to obtain? Hollow point bullets that can tear up your insides if you're shot at. Night vision goggles. What do they need this for on campus, and how is this relevant, you may ask yourself? It's relevant because the other day we organized an action against Edo Netanyahu at the City College of New York. Edo Netanyahu is Benjamin Netanyahu's brother. He had a play about the Holocaust, and we united with that message. That message is that resistance is justified, right? Yes. We were uniting with that message, but going against the hypocrisy that he was in the Sarayat, that he was in the Israeli Defense Forces, that he was a war criminal, and he's coming to our campuses. So we had every right to stand up and speak out against it. Do you know what happened? They tried to kick us out of the building, and they called NYPD, and they came armed with guns. against students who were there to express their political ideas and beliefs. What does that say to me? What does that say to me as a Muslim Palestinian woman who just wants to go out and tell people about our cause? Tell people that it's not justified to steal another person's land, that it's not justified to commit genocide against people, that this is wrong. I have to fear this as a student, as an activist, as a person. Every day we have to worry about whether our spaces are being infiltrated. You know, I've gotten texts from people at my campus saying things like, all I want to do is have revenge against the Israeli and American government, trying to elicit a response out of me. I'm only 21 years old, but because of the privilege that I've had to contact lawyers, to contact people from Palestine Legal, to know what I should say and what I shouldn't say, and how to deal with people, they could easily come in and get people like us. And all they have to do is just get one person to shut down entire movements. That's all they have to do. They're smart about it and they know. And this is something that we deal with every single day. Palestinians used to be out in the streets in force before 9/11. They used to be out in the streets protesting, proclaiming loudly that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that they want a one-state solution, that they want national liberation. Post 9/11, look at SJPs. They don't even have Palestinians in them anymore. They don't even have Arabs or Muslims in them anymore because people are afraid. I've organized on campuses where students have come up to me and told me, I wholeheartedly believe in the cause. I want to join you. But I know that if I do so, it's like shooting myself in the foot. I won't have a career. I won't have a future. I will be at risk of being entrapped. I could go to prison simply for coming out and saying that I'm against Zionism. And these are fears that students have to face every day from websites like Canary Mission, which its sole purpose is to not grant students a future. And NYC SJP, we have 6 people on that website. I know that I'm giving up so many opportunities and so many options for myself just for saying this, just for believing what I believe in. And that shouldn't be something that we have to deal with. Cases like the Holy Land 5 illustrate the repression at its highest. And people think that we're paranoid for thinking that this could happen to us. But it has, and it continues to happen to us. That student who was at Brooklyn College went to spaces in Queens, went to spaces at Hunter. I have comrades that have met her, that have spoken to her. That's chilling to me. That's scary to me. That I could have been around this person. That I could have been around this person whose purpose was to get me in jail, to get my comrades in jail. And the administration does nothing to shut it down. They claim that they don't know anything about it. But we all know that's a lie. Because they also repress SJPs and any Palestine solidarity groups and Muslim groups from their own end. We've had times where administration tried to force us to collaborate with Hillel. We've had events that they didn't approve until 5 minutes before. They send so many police officers and public safety to our events just waiting for the slightest mistake to bring us down. And they want to claim that they don't know anything about this. When I go to events at Brooklyn College, they have full body metal detectors with wands and pat downs and conveyor belts where your jackets and your items go through just to get an SJP event. Because it says on the door, enter here if you're coming for Students for Justice in Palestine, but use the other door if you're going to another event. They treat us like we're criminals. They're privatizing our universities. They're militarizing our universities. They're taking money away from gender resource centers and from daycare centers and from printing and from resources that we need, and they're using that to buy weapons for public safety. The city college is voting right now whether or not they can have assault rifles, whether public safety can obtain assault rifles. This is the climate that we deal with on campus. People think repression is just allowing or not allowing people to have an event. But here in New York and here against, in the belly of the beast against Zionism, New York is the largest Zionist space outside of Israel, I think. We know that it's much more than that. But I know that if I don't say anything, that it's only gonna get worse. If I can't stand up for myself, if I can't stand up for my people, who will? We have to continue the fight against this. I know it's scary. I know it's sad, and I know it's depressing to look around you and feel like you're trapped from all corners, from all sides, from all ends. I might not get into a good grad school. I might not get into law school. I might not have a career. I might not have a job. I might end up in jail. I might have comrades attacked for that, or comrades that are gonna end up in jail as well. But if we don't do this, who will? We have to continuously fight and build together. Because they can get 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 of us, but they can't get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 of us. This is why when we put out a call, we want everyone to be there. We want everyone to get involved. Because the louder our voices are, the harder it is going to be for them to drown it out. And this is why I urge all of you to support your groups that fight for justice, like this one, like Students for Justice in Palestine, and give support to MSAs. This is why I encourage all of you to do that. Because if you're not there, then who will be? If we're not building this, who will build it? We have to be the ones to do it. And we're doing that right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nardine. Really bringing home the extreme urgency of solidarity in this situation and what people are up against. As a professor at Hofstra, I helped found the first SJP there, and I encountered the kind of fear that you talk about among students who were afraid to join.
A student had to leave Hofstra because of the Zionist administration, I know.
Yes, I know this student. So it's really urgent that we all stand together, as you said. Our next speaker, Thomas DeAngelis, is also an activist with SJP at Brooklyn College. Thomas? He'll be speaking again about the experience of criminalization. He is, of course, at the campus that Nardine was just speaking about, where NYPD planted a spy to incite. So let's welcome Tom. Thank you.
So I'm Thomas, I'm at Brooklyn College. So as documented in the recent report by the Center for Constitutional Rights and Palestine Legal, the students at many college campuses, including Brooklyn College, have been the students at many college campuses, including Brooklyn College, have been scrutinized and punished for participating in Palestine solidarity activism. In the few years that SJP at Brooklyn College has been active, administration has harassed members of the organization, put our work under extreme and unfair scrutiny in comparison to other clubs, and has told other Black and Latino students who are involved with SJP to not affiliate with the organization because it could damage our career. This type of intimidation towards organizing and fighting for justice in Palestine is part of CUNY's tactics to remain invested in the occupation of Palestine and suppress student voices and curb social change. Surveillance at CUNY does not just end or begin with SJP. In the early 2000s, NYPD undercovers were found on campus spying on Muslim students. In 2015 alone, an NYPD undercover infiltrating the Islamic Student Organization has been outed, as well as another undercover who entrapped a janitor to sell drugs on campus. Either CUNY knows or doesn't know about NYPD's role on our campuses, but it is clear that CUNY campuses are increasingly becoming sites of state surveillance and violence. We cannot organize, socialize, or even learn without fear of undercovers and other types of informants lurking. In a space where we are supposed to be able to grow and learn, CUNY and the NYPD have made it clear that we can only learn and grow in ways that reproduce the same thoughts and violence that exact violence against our own communities. This type of surveillance is a major deterrent for activism, especially surrounding surveillance issues like those fighting for justice of the Holy Land 5. Black and Latino students and communities are surveilled and terrorized by the police, and Muslim communities are spied on and terrorized by the same forces. Surveillance and false imprisonment serve the purposes of terrorizing our communities in the name of protecting U.S. empire. The Holy Land 5 case is important because it is an explicit example of surveillance for the sake of terrorizing the American Muslim community, deterring people from political work, all while in the name of protecting the interests of American empire. Confronting state surveillance in our community is a major step towards justice. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'm also been asked to say a couple of words about the role of anti-Semitism in the cases that we're hearing about tonight. You know, we've heard anti-Semitism is a kind of an undercurrent of a lot of the cases that we've been hearing about, either explicitly or implicitly. And it's the distortion and manipulation of discourses on anti-Semitism that have come to be used as a weapon against Palestine activists. And also, there's sort of two tracks, I think, in the way that anti-Semitism discourses have come to be abused, and one of them is against Palestine activists, and another one is in the Islamophobia campaigns that have taken a really virulent turn in this country. So we can see that those campaigns are really interrelated, and the way that the distortion of anti-Semitism has come to be used as a weapon, and Jewish identity has basically been weaponized against Palestine activists. We can see the way the Israeli state has basically effectively disseminated this false notion that any criticism of state policy, of their policy of ethnic cleansing of the indigenous Palestinian population, constitutes an act of hatred against Jews. They very effectively disseminated this idea and made it a kind of a truism, an assumption of the mainstream community in this country. And this is something that we really have to keep pushing back against. We've seen the really devastating effects that these distortions and manipulations have on people's lives. The way that Palestinians are dying in Israel and Palestine because of these distortions, and that people's lives have been destroyed here in the U.S. In the Palestine activist community. So this is really one of the main ways that anti-Semitism has been distorted and abused here. And in terms of Islamophobia, anti-Semitism has also been falsely attributed to Islam, when actually it's modern anti-Semitism as we know it is a European Christian phenomenon that was exported from the Christian world. And even the category of the Semite is a sort of a false invention of the 19th century Europe that arose around the time of the colonial European powers of other racialized categories that were invented by Europe to justify colonial domination. So we can see that even this idea of anti-Semitism, we have to keep on redefining it and reminding people what this is and where it comes from, and disconnecting it from Jewish identity, and or that is to say, disconnecting criticism of Israel from anti-Semitism, and also correctly redirecting our direction from the idea that anti-Semitism is somehow a Muslim phenomenon. This is a really pernicious movement. It's a really pernicious effect, and has had, as we've seen, criminalizing effects. It really has put people in jail. I think it's really important for us to remember this genealogy of these kinds of discourses and to keep pushing back against them, and to continue to delineate between legitimate criticism of anti-Jewish attacks and Islamophobia or any other form of racism or prejudice whenever we encounter it, out of the strength of our collective interconnectedness. And this is something that I think Nordine really called attention to, our need to remember that we're all interconnected, and that our liberation is interconnected, and that we need to continue to remember this, the strength of our collective mutual care and protection and love is what will forward our movements of justice. And on that note, I also want to just also inject a note of hope, just to remember how, as Omar pointed out, our movement is really growing. there are increasing numbers of people that are questioning these handed down distortions of about the situation in Palestine and Israel, who are really starting to understand that they've been lied to. And there are increasing numbers of Jews that are questioning these conceptions of anti-Semitism and who are questioning the kinds of discourses that they've been fed. Groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, who I work with, have seen an explosion in our membership. Students for Justice in Palestine also, and other groups, Jews Say No, the Anti-Islamophobia Network, Jews Against the Occupation. So there are increasing numbers of Jews and non-Jews who are seeing that our collective liberation is interconnected and that we need to stand together. And so we need to keep challenging these discourses wherever we hear them and pushing back with the facts. And just to keep reminding people that criticizing the ethnic cleansing of an indigenous population is in no way an act of anti-Semitism. On the contrary, it's an act of standing up for human rights and the dignity of all people, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and otherwise. I'd like to ask Noor Elashi to come forward to say a few words on behalf of her father, Ghassan Elashi, one of the Holy Land Five.
Nearly 7 years ago this month, my father, Ghassan Elashi, was convicted of false terrorism charges in the vacuum of post-9/11 hysteria, under allegations stemming from his indisputable philanthropic work. He is currently serving a 65-year sentence for conspiracy to send material support in the form of humanitarian aid to charities in the West Bank and Gaza that prosecutors claimed were associated with a designated terrorist organization. His biggest defense thus far, and the reason why my father may be vindicated in due time, is that his charity, the Holy Land Foundation, used the same exact Palestinian charities that the United Nations, the Red Cross, and the United States Agency for International Development used to distribute its aid. 5.5 years of his incarceration were spent at the Communications Management Unit in Marion, Illinois, where he was allowed only 2 15-minute phone calls a week. All his calls and emails between he and his family were live monitored. We were only allowed 8 hours of visitations a month, always behind plexiglass, which were very rarely possible because he was 700 miles away from my family. Though we've been apart for several years and have not been able to hug him in more than 5 years, my father has inspired me from afar. He's shown me how to persevere through hardship. He's listened to me when no one else would. He's made the complex seem simple and the painful feel bearable. He's calmed me during stressful moments, and he showed me how to give with a generous heart. The same type of heart that caused him to start a charity in the late 80s. The same kind of heart that caused him to say proudly on sentencing day, "Nothing in my life was as rewarding as knowing that I could sign a check." The evidence that is used against me. It is the only evidence you have used against me, signing the check. But that was the most enjoyable part of my life. A month ago, my father was transferred to a prison in Coleman, Florida, where I'll soon get to hold him in my arms again. This is a small positive step that could make way for ultimate justice. Around this time next year could mark a milestone in this case. The president of our country could take an opportunity during his last few months in office to right this shameful moment in our history through a pardon or clemency. And even if you're not liberated next year, my father, we will keep advocating for you. You will remain in the consciousness of many until the day that you are exonerated. I'd like to end my statement by reading an excerpt of my memoir that I'm working on, and then I'm gonna also follow that by a statement that he sent me recently. A year before his imprisonment, I saw my father in our garden dressed casually with a camera around his neck. I asked him where he was going, and he said he was planning to march around downtown Dallas to protest the immigration bill that was being debated in Congress. He asked if I wanted to join him, but I told him I had work. Later that night, he told me that I missed a great moment in American history. See for yourself, he said, proudly flipping through the pictures on his digital camera. These pictures captured the vibrant ambiance of a united cause. There was nothing like it, he said, referring to the river of 500,000 people wearing white who poured onto the otherwise non-pedestrian downtown streets. He too wore white and waved the Mexican flag. He too chanted "Si se puede." To learn more about the case, you could visit freedomtogive.com, which is the official site for the Holy Land 5. So I'll end with my father's statement, and he literally sent this to me yesterday. It has been almost 14 years since the Holy Land Foundation was shut down with an executive order from President George W. Bush, following a years-long relentless lobbying effort that was a mere extension of the modern-day apartheid system against Palestinians. In the past 14 years, thousands of Palestinian children have become orphans, while the HLF would have brought smiles and a better future for some of these orphans. In the past 14 years, thousands of Palestinian homes have been demolished, while the HLF would have helped thousands of Palestinian families rebuild their homes and live with dignity. In the past 14 years, tens of hospitals and clinics have been destroyed, while the HLF would have built and provided supplies to many medical facilities. In the past 14 years, Palestinian children have been traumatized with American-made weaponry, while the HLF would have inspired hope to many school children and offered scholarships for thousands of college students. In the past 14 years, billions of dollars in donations have gone towards building illegal settlements, while the HLF has lost the opportunity to send hundreds of millions of dollars to empower the indigenous people of Palestine in their villages and towns. As you see here in his statement, my father's high spirits transcend all barbed wire-topped fences. His time in prison did not stifle his passion for human rights. In fact, when I asked him about the first thing he'll do when he's released, my father said, "I will walk all the way to Richardson, Texas, carrying a sign that says, 'End the occupation of Palestine.'" Thank you for being here and showing up.
Thank you so much, Noor. I'm hoping to recover for that beautiful letter. I'd like to turn the floor over to Christine now.
Sally asked me to sing at these vigils. Since I'm an opera singer, the idea is that the voice can be heard up there. I hope that it will tonight. Thank you all for coming. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long ways from home, a long ways from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long ways. A long ways. A long ways from home.
Thank you so much, Christine. So I just want to thank everyone again so much for coming tonight. It's very moving to me to see so many of you here in support of this really important case and these important issues. As I said, we're here every first Monday of the month to draw attention to another case or set of cases or issues related to this post 9/11 abuses. You're all welcome to return every month. And I'd also like to encourage you to look at the event pages of other groups involved in tonight's vigil, like the Center for Constitutional Rights, which is having a First Wednesday event, this Wednesday actually, a new salon event that they're starting. Jewish Voice for Peace has lots of events coming up. Students for Justice in Palestine has many wonderful speakers and events and demonstrations. Al-Awda is also going to be having a very important launch event for their cultural boycott coming up in mid-November, right, on the 14th. So please look out for those. Watch for join listservs or look on their social sites. And I'd like to invite Luke back to close tonight's session.
So usually I close with a poem, that's got to focus on human rights. And I was so inspired hearing Noor and Omar and the family, this family, I feel, right here speak tonight, as well as the voice of the students. And I'd like to end with this. So let me hear the people say, "We want justice."
We want justice.
And say, "Free, free Palestine."
Free, free Palestine.
Say, "We want justice."
We want justice.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Beautiful, phenomenal, we're making love methodical. We keep it democratic so that every voice is audible. The piece to keep me radical is keeping me responsible for liberating everywhere till ain't nobody bombable. And if they come to kill us, then we'll liberate the hospital. Imagine having no fear. Welcome to the possible. The people got the power, and the power is diversity. Students stand up, this is Freedom University. We march in the streets and there ain't no tuition, and we learn from our people who are living up in prisons, getting free with our vision. So tell me how we living. Are we free in New York? Are we free in the Shire? Are we free in our souls? Are we free in our mind? Let me hear the people say, "Free, free Palestine."
Free, free Palestine.
Say, "Free, free Palestine."
Free, free Palestine.
'Cause now is the moment, this is the time. We're liberating everywhere so everyone can shine. Say, "We want justice."
We want justice.
Say, "We want justice."
We want justice.
And say, "Free, free Palestine."
Free, free Palestine.
Say, "Free, free Palestine."
Free, free Palestine.
Thank you for lifting your voices up, for hearing each other and remembering how strong we are when we come together and make a collective voice. Today, before we leave, we're gonna raise our voice one more time together with a simple song. But instead of looking at each other in our cipher, I'm gonna ask y'all to go ahead and turn around and look at this prison, at MCC. The song is real simple, but to sing it, I'm gonna ask you to keep in mind all the people you are bringing here with you tonight. Who are the people in your community that you carry? Who are the people in your ancestry that you carry with you? Who is in your heart and in your mind that keeps you on point as you struggle? There's a lot of people here with us tonight. We are way bigger than we seem. And that's why I'm gonna ask you to sing this song with me. I'll sing it through once and y'all can join me. I have not come here alone.
Come here alone.
I carry my people.
I carry my people
in my bones.
in my bones.
So now you know the words. Hold on one second. Let me sing the whole thing through and then you can join me. I have not. Hold on a sec. I have not come here alone. I carry my people in my bones. There it goes. Now sing it with me. I have not come here alone. I carry my people.
I carry my people in my bones.
Sing it a little louder.
I have not come here alone.
I carry.
I carry my people
In my bones. Let me hear y'all now. I have not come here alone. I carry my people in my bones. Sing a little louder. I have not come here alone. I carry my people in my bones. Sing it 2 more times. I have not come here alone. I carry my people in my bones. Last time real loud. I have not come here alone. I carry my people in my bones. If y'all can face back into the circle real quick. Thank you for lifting your voices in song. Thank you for coming from wherever you came from tonight to be here, to remember how strong we are and to remember how necessary our struggle is. We're gonna close with the most powerful voice we got, and that's the voice of the people. So when I say people, y'all say power. People, power. People, power. And when I say we want, y'all say freedom. We want freedom. We want freedom. When I say we are, you say together. We are together. We are together. We are together. Thank you so much. Round of applause for y'all.